He was right. The famine, it's here. For 7 years, we laughed. Called him crazy. Hoarded our grain, ate our fill. Now, the granaries are bare. Our treasures, worthless. But one man, a slave risen to power, listened to a dream. Joseph. His radical plan, ridiculed for years, is now our only hope. This is the story of the original wealth builder, whose ancient secret outsmarted starvation and built an empire. From the heart of Africa, from the very cradle of civilization, comes a story that echoes through millennia. A story etched not only in stone, but in the very fabric of success. We often look to the West for the secrets of wealth, for the blueprints of prosperity. But what if I told you that the wisdom you seek has been here all along, whispering from the pages of a book you likely already own? For centuries, scholars have debated the intricacies of the Old Testament, interpreting prophecies, dissecting moral codes, and analyzing historical narratives. But within its pages lies a practical guide, a financial blueprint so powerful, so effective, that it shaped the destiny of an entire nation. A nation, I might add, that was then the envy of the known world, Egypt. Our story begins not with stock markets or venture capital, but with a dream. A dream so vivid, so impactful, that it shook the foundations of Pharaoh's court. A dream that foretold 7 years of unprecedented abundance, followed by 7 years of devastating famine. The interpreter of that dream. A young man named Joseph. A name often associated with faith and resilience but rarely with financial acumen. And yet, it was Joseph's strategic brilliance, his understanding of cycles and his discipline that saved Egypt from utter ruin. Appointed as vizier, second only to Pharaoh himself, Joseph implemented a plan so audacious, so transformative that it reshaped the economic landscape. He commanded that during the 7 years of plenty, a fifth of the harvest be collected and stored in granaries throughout the land. A fifth. That's 20%. 20% of every harvest, diligently saved, year after year. This wasn't taxation, this was strategic wealth accumulation. And the impact was undeniable. When famine struck, as predicted, Egypt was prepared. While neighboring nations starved, Egypt had reserves. Joseph opened the granaries, selling grain not only to Egyptians, but to people from across the region. Imagine that. Turning scarcity into opportunity, transforming a potential disaster into a source of both survival and immense wealth. Wealth that solidified Egypt's position as a global power. Consider this, the ancient Egyptians, under Joseph's guidance, held a financial reserve so significant that they controlled regional trade during a prolonged period of crisis. This wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. About leveraging foresight and discipline to create lasting prosperity. We often hear about the Dutch tulip bubble of 1637, or the South Sea bubble of 1720, as examples of financial folly. But Joseph's 7-year plan. It stands as the oldest documented, most successful wealth-building blueprint in human history. For over 3,700 years this strategy has been hidden in plain sight. But here's the revelation, the wait, what, moment. Joseph wasn't just saving grain. He was saving money. The grain money. It was a tradable commodity, a store of value. And by controlling the supply of this vital commodity, Joseph essentially controlled the entire regional economy. He created a system where the value of the grain during the famine, making the reserves worth even more. The plan that became the foundation of Egyptian wealth was a savings plan, but with a very interesting twist. The Egyptians used to call money. The whispers of Joseph's 7-year plan echoed through the millennia. But is it just a story? A parable? Or is there tangible evidence that this biblical economic model resonated far beyond the borders of ancient Egypt? Consider the pilgrimage of Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali, to Mecca in 1324. His caravan, a river of gold flowing across the Sahara, captivated the world. Chroniclers describe his wealth using terms usually reserved for Solomon's legendary treasures. Al-Umari, an Arab historian, wrote of Musa's immense generosity and the sheer volume of gold he spent and gifted. Now, we know that the Malian Empire, at its peak, controlled vital trade routes, especially in gold and salt. But Musa's wealth wasn't simply about access to resources. It was about strategic accumulation, a concept remarkably similar to Joseph's foresight. Oral traditions in the region highlight the importance of investing wisely during times of plenty, preparing meticulously for the inevitable lean years. Dr. Fatima Hossein, a leading expert in West African economic history, explains. Mansa Musa's wealth was not just a stroke of luck. It was a result of careful planning, investing in infrastructure, particularly in education and religious institutions. He understood the cyclical nature of economics and planned accordingly. What's truly compelling is the language used to describe his prosperity. Medieval Arab scholars, familiar with the Bible, used strikingly similar phrases when detailing Mansa Musa's opulence and generosity as they did when describing the legendary riches of King Solomon. They spoke of storehouses overflowing, of surplus used for the common good, and a ruler dedicated to the welfare of his people. The parallels are undeniable. A focus on agricultural production, a strategic understanding of commodity cycles, a commitment to social welfare, and an understanding of the need to reserve resources for inevitable times of famine. These core principles, central to Joseph's plan, seem to have manifested across the African continent centuries later. But there's more. It is the Musa acquired and managed his wealth. An alchemical combination of faith, foresight, and, wait for it, a sophisticated system of grain reserves. Yes, meticulously managed granaries, not unlike the ones Joseph built in Egypt, ensured food security and provided a crucial buffer against economic shocks. Archaeological evidence uncovered in Gao, a vital trade center in Mali, reveals the remnants of large-scale storage facilities dating back to the 13th and 14th centuries. Independent evidence 1,500 miles apart suggests the same strategic approach. In the arid lands of northern Kenya, elders still gather beneath acacia trees, their faces etched with the wisdom of generations. They speak of foresight, of planning beyond the immediate, of building a legacy. It's a deep-seated principle, echoing in communities from the Zambezi River Delta to the ancient kingdoms of Ethiopia. Why this enduring emphasis on intergenerational wealth? Why this insistence on building not just for ourselves, but for those who will come after? The answer, perhaps surprisingly, lies woven into the very fabric of our traditional beliefs, resonating profoundly with the teachings found in the African Bible. Proverbs 13 verse 22, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. It's more than just a comforting verse, it's a societal blueprint. Think of the great kingdoms of our past. The Ashanti Confederacy, prosperous from the 17th century, meticulously managed its gold reserves not just for current expenditure, but as a buffer against future hardship, a resource for generations yet unborn. Or consider the intricate land ownership systems developed across West Africa, designed to protect ancestral lands from exploitation and ensure their continued productivity for future descendants. These weren't accidents, they were deliberate strategies born from a conviction that the present generation is merely a custodian of resources, not the ultimate owner. This long-term thinking is crucial now, more than ever. We live in a world driven by instant gratification, by short-term gains, often at the expense of long-term sustainability. The seductive allure of consumerism and the relentless pressure to accumulate immediate wealth can easily eclipse the wisdom of our ancestors. We forget the lessons ingrained within us, the principles that sustain our communities through centuries of hardship. Consider the devastating impact of the structural adjustment programs imposed by institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in the 1980s and 90s. Ostensibly designed to stimulate economic growth, these policies often forced African nations to prioritize debt repayment and short-term exports, often at the expense of long-term investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, directly undermining the ability of future generations to thrive. We prioritized the now and risked mortgaging our tomorrow. But there's something more profound at play here, a connection that often goes unacknowledged. The concept of inheritance isn't just about material wealth. It's about passing down knowledge, values, and spiritual strength. It's about ensuring that future generations are equipped not just to survive, but to flourish. It's about embodying the Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are, understanding that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of our community and, indeed, our descendants. So, let's return to Joseph, the man whose story sparked this exploration. We know he advised the Pharaoh on how to prepare for a famine. But here is where it gets interesting. The Bible recounts that Joseph himself used the period of abundance to acquire all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. All of it. He essentially nationalized the entire agricultural base of what was then the most powerful civilization on earth. And the people, initially grateful for his foresight, eventually became completely dependent on the Pharaoh for their very survival. Wait, what? Was Joseph's plan ultimately a wealth strategy for himself and the Pharaoh, disguised as societal benefit? Was the first documented wealth-building strategy on earth not actually one of shared prosperity, but rather a carefully orchestrated power grab? This raises uncomfortable questions about the true nature of wealth and its potential for manipulation. So, Joseph's story, stretching back millennia, isn't just an ancient tale. It's a profoundly practical blueprint for financial freedom, forged in the heart of Africa. Think about it, a structured savings plan, prioritizing future prosperity over immediate gratification. In so many ways, this mirrors the challenges and opportunities facing Africans today. We're a continent rich in potential, but often lacking the financial tools and strategies to unlock that wealth. Joseph's 7-year plan provides a powerful framework for building generational wealth, investing wisely, and securing a stable future, both individually and collectively. It's about understanding the cycles, anticipating challenges, and taking proactive control of our economic destinies. And to truly master Joseph's wisdom, you need the right tools. That's why we created the Creator Kit, available now at pornoafric.com/shop.html. It's packed with practical resources to help you implement Joseph's plan in your own life and business, from budgeting templates to investment strategies tailored for the African context. This isn't just about accumulating wealth, it's about building resilient communities, strengthening our economies, and creating a future where every African has the opportunity to thrive. It begins with embracing the timeless wisdom of our ancestors and applying it to the modern world. It starts with investing in yourself and in your future. Now, more than ever, Africa needs financial literacy and proactive wealth building. Don't let this ancient wisdom remain buried in the pages of Scripture. Bring it to life. Put it to work. Follow at pornoafric for Africa Plus Money Plus Wisdom Fire.